Wait a minute. So you telling me that Dennis Lehane can write horror? Yes. Yes, he can. Hello, everyone. Britton here, also known as Smoky Dude, and if you didn't get from my little intro there, the book I am going to be covering to end my Spoopathon season, sad as it is to say, is Darkness Take My Hand from Dennis Lehane, which I think is a really good novel. As I've said before, I think Dennis Lehane, or Lehane, thank you Carlos, is probably one of the best crime fiction writers who is working today. And aside from Mystic River, I think Darkness Take My Hand is probably his best work. At least it's my personal favorite, that is. I thoroughly enjoyed this book. I read A Drink Before the War, and it was one of those nice experiences where I read A Drink Before the War, I enjoyed it a bit, and then I picked this one up. I didn't really know what to expect. Then I read it, and I loved it. I ate this up in maybe, it's about a week, I think. I ate it up in about a week. But this was a fantastic novel. Darkness Take My Hand is one of those rare follow-up novels that does what the original book did very well and just makes it better all around. I mean, I think this book is a drastic improvement on the first one. As good as the first one was, I think the pacing is tighter, the themes are far more contemplative, make you think, and the characters are much deeper than it was in the first novel. Even though the first novel was good, and the characters in it were also very good. I just think in this one it really goes inside your soul in the way I know that Dennis Lehane can. Now, while I wouldn't say that this book is a straight-up horror novel, just some of the disturbing moments in this novel make it a horror experience. And Lehane proves to be adept at creating an atmosphere of dread and just this utter terror, even though, and what's even worse is that all of the horror in this novel doesn't come from monsters or creepy dolls or any of that shit, or Cthulhu or any of that shit. It comes from human beings, and it shows that, as Joseph Conrad once said, you don't need a supernatural malady. Human beings are capable of all sorts of wickedness, and it's very much true in this novel. There are several moments in Darkness Take My Hand where characters would just explain like as if they're going to the store, these just horrible, depraved things that they do, and it gives you the shivers, or at least it did to me, and I definitely could see even the most hardened horror fans just kind of shiver a little bit at it. And Dennis Lehane is so good at that. He is good at just reaching inside of you, into your soul, and just make you feel what his characters are feeling at a specific moment. And this novel really goes into some disturbing, dark places, and it also shows why I prefer noir over other kinds of crime, like Agatha Christie, for example, because of this just dark intensity. I don't view crime as sexy. Crime should be scary, it should be dark, it should be disturbing, it should just be utterly, just sickening almost. And I know that makes me sound like some sicko, but that's just what I think. When I read an Agatha Christie novel, for instance, I don't mean to bully Agatha Christie. I think she's a good writer, but why I find those stories unappealing personally to me is that I find that it's just not as compelling to me as when it's someone really going into the heart of darkness. I don't view crime as sexy. And of course, I don't mind stories like that. I mean, I do love Sherlock Holmes, but I think noir really cuts into how human beings can be evil, and just how dirty and disgusting and disturbing crime can be. But where I think this novel truly shines the most is the characterization. The characterization in this is Like I said, this book takes all the stuff that was good in A Drink Before the War and just makes it better all around. And I liked A Drink Before the War. I did a review of that book on this channel, which I will link below. And I also really enjoy Mystic River as well, which I also did a review to. I'll link that down below. But this novel just... oh man, it's so good. We even see I found the mystery was even more engaging because we really see how it personally affects Patrick, and we realize that Patrick actually has a part to play in this mystery that they end up unraveling. And we see him really struggle to get out of this situation unscathed. And we even get to see a darker part of Patrick in this novel. We even see a really well done romance between Patrick and his new girlfriend. Her name is Grace. She works at a hospital. And even though we know, considering Patrick's line of work and the fact that he's totally not in love with Gennaro, his partner, we know it's probably not going to go very well, even though we really want it to. But I also noticed in Darkness Take My Hand that one of the themes that Lehane really likes to play with is how the sins of the past often bleed into the present. We see it it's most apparent in Mystic River, and that's funny I mentioned that because you can even see echoes of what he would eventually do in Mystic River in Darkness Take My Hand. There's even a scene where a couple guys end up propositioning some children to come with them. Much like in Mystic River. It's not a spoiler. But in this, I'm not going to say it's better than Mystic River, but it's right up there with Mystic River. You can see Lehane really develop that theme, and then he perfected it eventually in Mystic River, and how the sins of the father ultimately are dealt on the son. There's even a reference to Shakespeare's Othello, which is one of my favorite Shakespeare plays, that even plays a role in this story. And I'm like, man, this story was already so great. There's great horror elements. There's great just great dark atmosphere. And now we got a Shakespeare reference. This book is freaking amazing, I'm telling you. But this was really the book that, if I wasn't convinced already that Dennis Lehane was a master of the crime novel, this book will convince you, I promise you. It is my favorite of the Kenzie and Gennaro books. And in my opinion, I think it is the best novel of the Kenzie and Gennaro series. And up there with Mystic River, I think this is one of the best novels that Dennis Lehane has ever done. It really is it's just a great story all around. And it's just one of those books that just fires on all cylinders, and I really enjoy it because of that. And I'm really sad that we didn't get any more Kenzie and Gennaro films, because they made Gone Baby Gone a few years ago. Ben Affleck did, but then they never did it. Then they never did any more of them. I think this book would do very well in an adaptation. What I would love to see is an adaptation for television, and have all 6 books be like 6 seasons of the show. I think that would be really good. That would be a really good way to adapt the story. But you could also adapt this into a movie as well. I think you could easily make this into a film. And I mean, it's just a great story. It's one of those books that just reaches into you and never lets you go. And those are the best kind of books, in my opinion. I have not stopped thinking about this book ever since I stopped reading it, and I don't think I'll be. I don't think I'll stop anytime soon. I'll just put it that way. I also listened to the audiobook. I don't listen to a lot of audiobooks, but the audiobook version of this book was actually very good. Jonathan Davis did the audiobook for it, and it was very good. I really like his tonal inflections. I like how he definitely sells that kind of jaded, world-weary, even though Patrick is younger than a lot of other detectives in these types of series. We definitely feel that world weariness, that almost tiredness from the performance, that he's just he deals with all these horrible things on a daily basis, and it kind of drives him not insane. He does manage to get through this, mostly unscathed. But it does affect him, and he definitely has his moments of angst. But I really like the audiobook version of this as well, if you really like audiobooks. I think Jonathan Davis is a really good narrator. Is he as good as someone like Stephen Pacey? Of course not. That would be really fun to see Stephen Pacey do narration of this book, though. That would be nice. But anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself. But, yeah, I mean, if you want to read something during the spooky season that's not quite a horror novel, but it definitely veers into that realm, I definitely would recommend Darkness Take My Hand. And I'd recommend Dennis Lehane in general. I've covered a few of his books on this channel, and you know how I feel about him. I think he's a fantastic writer, and there's not really much else for me to say. He's just great. This book is great. Go check it out. Yeah. So I think that's really all I got to say for today. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. You can find me on Twitter. You can find me on Goodreads and Letterboxd, where I write reviews that are probably more coherent than the one you just heard right now. And you can find me on Discord. So, yeah, come talk to me. I'd love to hear from you guys. And also, read this book. Just do it. It's really good.